The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. The ego is not master in its own house. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun, and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. Sexuality is an extraordinarily important driving force of every living being. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. Sexual love is undoubtedly one of the chief things in life, and the union of mental and bodily satisfaction in the enjoyment of love is one of its culminating peaks. The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. The sexual life of adult women is a dark continent for psychology. Neurotics complain of their illness, but they make the most of it, and when it comes to taking it away from them, they will defend it like a lioness her young. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is, what does a woman want? One is very crazy when in love. The more the fruits of knowledge become accessible to men, the more widespread is the decline of religious belief. In the depths of my heart, I can't help being convinced that my dear fellow men, with a few exceptions, are worthless. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The madman is a dreamer awake. Men are strong so long as they represent a strong idea. They become powerless when they oppose it. Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. The sexual aberrations are, as it were, so many roads that lead into the wide thoroughfare of normal sexuality. A civilization which leaves so large a number of its participants unsatisfied, and drives them into revolt, neither has nor deserves the prospect of a lasting existence. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety and thus the source and prototype of the effect of anxiety. The ego is not sharply separated from the external world, it extends porous boundaries over the latter. The goal of all life is death. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. The mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun, and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises. When inspiration does not come to me, I go halfway to meet it. No one who, like me, conjures up the most evil of those half-tamed demons that inhabit the human breast, and seeks to wrestle with them, can expect to come through the struggle unscathed. Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes, but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his conduct in the world. Men are more moral than they think and far more immoral than they can imagine. Everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before me. The ego is ultimately forced to give up some of its narcotic satisfaction from illusion and to learn to tolerate the pain of reality. The liberty of the individual is no gift of civilization. It was greatest before there was any civilization. The primacy of the individual is a fact in the realm of thought, and the creative genius is its most striking representative. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. A certain degree of neurosis is of inestimable value as a drive, especially to a psychologist. The ego is ultimately forced to give up some of its narcotic satisfaction from illusion and to learn to tolerate the pain of reality. The unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. Civilized people cannot fully satisfy their sexual instincts, or their aggressive instincts either, and therefore they are never really happy. Everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before me. The more one is governed by vague ideas, the more one will be dominated by practical circumstances. Analogies decide nothing, that is true, but they can make one feel more at home. Neurosis is the result of a conflict between the ego and its ID, whereas psychosis is the analogous outcome of a similar disturbance in the relation between the ego and the external world. Where there is love, there is no imposition.